The next two, it says, love does not boast, and love is not proud. I think that there's a connection between boasting and pride at this point. When we boast, it's often trying to build ourselves up in the eyes of others so they will think better of us. And I think pride comes when we maybe think too highly of ourselves. There's nothing wrong with feeling good about our accomplishments and who we are, but if we look at ourselves, if we think of ourselves in a way that is belittling to others, then that pride is not healthy. Boasting and pride are kind of elements that can create competition in a relationship. Most of the time with a competition, there's winners and losers. But this love which Paul is teaching about, this love that never fails, has no losers. It's a love that only is a win. And it's a love that does not boast. It's a love that is not proud. It is a love which never fails, is a love that is not rude. To put it in positive terms, one writer said that love is tactful and polite. This love never fails to be honest and truthful, but you don't speak the truth in such a way that it is rude and hurtful. I had a friend in seminary who shared a story with me that was so painful to him, because he said that he remembered a time when he was growing up, that he was so angry with his mother that he looked her square in the eye one day and he said, "You know what, Mom? You're fat." Now, we might kind of get a little chuckle as we hear about a child telling that story 20 years later. But he was crushed. He remembers that day that he said that to his mother and how painful it was for him, because he knew that he wanted to hurt his mother. Love is not about hurting others. Love is not rude. Love is not self-seeking. As I think about these characteristics of love, I often think of relationships of married couples, although it certainly is not intended to only apply in marriage. But last week we talked about Ephesians chapter 5, and where it says, "Wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord, and husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." There are many who misinterpret or misuse that verse as an excuse for men to lord over women, or for men to put women in their place. But actually, what that passage is talking about is mutual submission. Men serving their wives, and wives serving their husbands. I truly believe that if we made that our goal in our marriages, of husbands serving their wives and wives serving their husbands, then we wouldn't need to be talking as much about divorce. It's an issue that if we're committed to serving our mate, if we're committed to pleasing our mate, then we don't have to worry about breaking away from that situation. The proverbial, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. The thing is, if I'm in one marriage that I'm not committed to serving my spouse, nothing's probably going to change in another marriage. Because if I haven't changed, if I am not different in the way I'm approaching a healthy relationship, then the same sorts of things are going to crop up eventually. Unfortunately, when only one works to serve the other, or when both are seeking to use and manipulate the relationship to get what they want, the relationship is far from unfailing love. Paul says love is not easily angered. This passage doesn't say that if you're living a life of love, you'll never get angry. But he says that you're not easily angered. You're not quick to anger. We'll actually look at the opposite of this in one of the positive attributes. that is when love is patient. When we're living love, we keep no record of wrongs. When we live the life of love that Paul is talking about, we can disagree, but our disagreements never come to the point that we're always bringing up the past. It's an issue of dealing with our disagreements and moving on. I remember meeting with one of the first couples that I ever married. And they were coming to my house for counseling one evening, and they'd had a fight on the way there. So I'm refereeing a fight in my living room. And the fight started because he was upset when she talked with another guy without him being present. Well, then she was upset because he left dishes in the kitchen sink. Then he was upset because she turned up the TV too loud and woke him when he was sleeping. And then she was upset because his parents never really liked her. It just went back and forth and back and forth, and we lost the whole issue that they were fighting over because they brought in all the other things from the past. It was never an issue that they resolved something, but that it always became an issue that they could go back to in every fight. But Paul says love keeps no record of wrongs. There's another name for that keeping no record of wrongs, and it's called forgiveness. The final negative attribute that Paul writes about is he says, do not delight in evil. Desire what is best for the other person, not something that's going to hurt them. In the sin-filled world in which we live, there are many people who thrive on the pain and suffering of others. But Paul says, when you want the best for another person, when you're trying to show love to that other person, you should never delight in evil. You should never delight in anything bad that comes their way. Love that never fails always hopes for the most and the best for another person. When we hope for the best for that other person, in the process we too are lifted. Well, let's turn quickly to the positive attributes that Paul says. He says, first of all, love is patient. Now, the Greek word that's translated patient carries with it the connotation of being patient with people, not being patient with circumstances. Now, we should still be patient with circumstances, but this love being patient is an issue of being patient with another person. It's been said that the word is used of the man who is wronged and who has it easily within his power to avenge the person who has offended him. Let me say that again. Patience has the connotation with it that when a person has been wronged and they have it within their ability to get revenge, to get back at that person, to do something in response to how they've hurt them, they willfully choose not to do it. That's the type of patience that Paul is saying that love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love reaches out in kindness when others would reach out in criticism and judgment. There are many people who stood around Jesus on that day when the adulterous woman was brought to him, and they were ready to stone her because that's what the law said should be done. And Jesus said, why doesn't the one of you who's without sin first cast the stone? You know the story. One by one, the people began walking away because they recognized that none of them were without sin.